Many men go into relationships believing that the more they do, the more secure the connection becomes. They assume that giving more time, more attention, more effort, and even more money will naturally make a woman stay. On the surface, that idea sounds logical. After all, doing more should lead to being appreciated more. But in reality, it often doesn't work that way. You can invest heavily in someone, constantly show up, always be available, and still feel like something is missing. You may notice that despite everything you do, her energy slowly changes. She might still be there physically, still responding, still engaging, but the depth of connection starts to fade in a way that's hard to explain. This leaves many men confused, wondering what went wrong when they feel like they've done everything right. The truth is, the foundation of attraction and loyalty is not built on actions alone. There's something deeper at play, something that determines whether a connection grows stronger or quietly disappears over time. You might find yourself doing everything you think is expected, being attentive, supportive, and always ready to give, yet still sensing that something isn't fully clicking. The confusion often comes from believing that effort alone should guarantee connection. It feels unfair when you're giving your best and not getting the response you expected in return. The reality is, relationships don't operate like a transaction. There isn't a simple equation where more effort equals more love. A woman doesn't stay simply because you've done a lot for her. She stays because of how the experience of being with you feels on a deeper level. That feeling cannot be replaced by gifts, favors, or constant availability. When you begin to understand this, your perspective shifts. You stop measuring your value by how much you give and start paying attention to the impact you create emotionally. That's where real connection begins to form, not in the quantity of your actions, but in the quality of the experience you bring into her life. The first thing to understand is that her loyalty is tied closely to how she feels when she is with you. It is not about the material things you provide or the constant effort you put in. What truly matters is the emotional atmosphere you create in her presence. If she feels excitement, calmness, respect, and a genuine connection, she naturally leans toward you without needing to be convinced. On the other hand, you could be doing everything right on paper, giving attention, buying gifts, always being available. Yet if those deeper feelings are missing, the connection slowly weakens. It doesn't happen all at once. It fades quietly, often without clear signs at the beginning. That's what makes it confusing. What's even more important to recognize is that someone else who offers less on the surface, but creates stronger emotions, can easily draw her attention. It's not about who gives more, it's about who makes her feel more. Once you understand that, you begin to see why emotional impact always outweighs effort alone. The second thing to understand is that her loyalty is tied to your value, not the sacrifices you make. Many men fall into the habit of believing that giving more proves their worth. They think that if they keep providing, keep buying, and keep showing up with constant effort, it will eventually secure her commitment. But over time, this approach often leads to the opposite outcome. When you continuously give without balance, you begin to lose the sense of value you once had. Instead of appearing strong and grounded, you start to look like you are trying too hard to earn her approval. That shift is subtle, but it changes how she perceives you. What was once attractive begins to feel predictable, and predictability without depth can reduce attraction. True value comes from having direction, purpose, and standards that you maintain regardless of the situation. It shows in how you carry yourself, how you make decisions, and how you respect your own time and energy. When a man holds on to that, he naturally becomes more appealing, because he is not defined by what he gives, but by who he is. Many men believe that if they just give a little more, try a little harder, or sacrifice a bit more of themselves, it will eventually lead to stronger attachment. But what often happens is the opposite. When you constantly overextend yourself, you begin to lose the sense of balance that makes you attractive in the first place. Instead of coming across as confident and secure, you start to appear as though you are seeking validation. This is where the problem begins. When your actions are driven by the need to be accepted or liked, it subtly communicates that you are not fully grounded in your own value. That energy is felt, even if it is never spoken about directly. Over time, it can shift how she sees you, not because you did something wrong, but because you gave up the very traits that created attraction initially. What matters more is maintaining your sense of self. Having your own goals, your own direction, and your own standards creates a natural sense of value. When you operate from that place, you no longer feel the need to prove anything, and that alone changes the dynamic in a way that effort alone never can. The third thing to understand is that her loyalty is tied to your strength, and this goes far beyond anything physical. What truly matters is emotional strength, the ability to stay composed, grounded, and steady, regardless of what is happening around you. This kind of strength shows in how you handle pressure, how you respond to challenges, and how you carry yourself when things don't go exactly as planned. When a man is easily shaken, constantly seeking reassurance, or afraid of losing her, it creates a sense of instability. That instability is felt quickly, even if nothing is said about it directly. It makes the connection feel uncertain, and over time, that uncertainty weakens attraction. On the other hand, when a man remains calm, confident, and in control of his emotions, it creates a sense of security that draws her in naturally. This doesn't mean being cold or distant. It means being emotionally balanced, knowing how to express yourself without losing control. When you have that level of stability, it becomes something she can rely on, and that reliability builds a deeper form of connection over time. The fourth thing to understand is that her loyalty is tied to consistency, not occasional big efforts. Many men believe that doing something impressive once in a while is enough to keep attraction strong. They might go all out on certain days, showing intense attention or making grand gestures, but then disappear emotionally or become distant at other times. That kind of pattern creates confusion rather than connection. What truly builds trust is predictability in your behavior. When your actions, attitude, and energy remain steady over time, it creates a sense of reliability. She knows what to expect from you, and that stability allows her to relax into the connection instead of constantly trying to figure you out. Inconsistency, on the other hand, creates doubt. Even if you do something great today, it loses its impact if tomorrow feels completely different. Consistency is not about being boring or repetitive. It's about maintaining the same level of respect, attention, and emotional presence across time. When your behavior aligns with your words again and again, it builds trust naturally. And trust is one of the strongest foundations for any lasting connection. The fifth thing to understand is that her loyalty is deeply connected to her own emotions. At the end of the day, people move toward what feels good to them and away from what doesn't. This applies to everyone, but in relationships it becomes even more important. If being with you consistently brings a sense of peace, excitement, and emotional comfort, she naturally stays engaged without needing to be convinced. But when the experience begins to feel heavy, stressful, or uncertain, her energy starts to shift. It may not happen immediately, and it might not be obvious at first, but over time, that emotional change leads to distance. This is why relying on effort alone doesn't work. You can be doing a lot on the outside, but if the internal experience doesn't feel right, the connection weakens. Understanding this helps you see relationships differently. It's not about trying to control how she feels, but about being aware of the environment you create when you're around her. When that environment feels natural, balanced, and positive, her emotions align with staying. And when her emotions align, everything else follows much more easily. At this point, it becomes clear that love and loyalty are not rewards handed out in exchange for effort. Many men approach relationships with the mindset that if they do enough, give enough, and sacrifice enough, they will naturally earn a woman's commitment. But real connection doesn't operate like a system of transactions. It doesn't follow a predictable formula where output guarantees a specific result. When you begin to see it this way, you realize that doing more is not always the answer. In fact, overdoing can sometimes take away from the natural attraction that should be building. What truly matters is the kind of man you are when you show up, not just what you bring. Your presence, your mindset, and your sense of self all play a much bigger role than constant effort ever could. This understanding shifts your focus completely. Instead of trying to earn attention, you begin to embody qualities that naturally draw it. And when attraction grows from that place, it becomes more stable, more genuine, and far less dependent on what you do moment by moment. So when you look at everything together, the picture becomes much clearer. Women are not staying because of what you give or how much you do. They are responding to something deeper, the emotional experience you create, the value you carry, the strength you show, and the consistency you maintain over time. These are the factors that quietly shape how she feels about you, even if they are never spoken out loud. When you focus on developing these areas, everything begins to shift naturally. You stop trying to prove yourself through constant effort and start showing up with a stronger sense of identity. That change alone alters the way she sees you and the way the connection develops. It becomes less about chasing and more about attracting through who you are. Take a moment to reflect on your own experiences. Have you ever felt like you were giving a lot but not getting the connection you expected? Or noticed how things change when someone genuinely enjoys being around you? Share your thoughts because your perspective can help others understand this better. And if this gave you value, support the channel by liking the video and subscribing for more insights on relationships and human behavior.